Hello, everybody. I wanted to do a first video on YouTube. I know a lot of people have been asking me about the general things that I just enjoy in my spare time, the things that really interest me. So I've taken the time to compile a list of my absolute all-time favorite poems that I wanted to read to you guys. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about the poems beforehand, and then I'll read the poems themselves. And I have about 10. And so I'm going to put timestamps down in the description for anybody who wants to just jump to a specific poem, or if you really liked it and you want to be able to find it later. I know a lot of you really want me to do like some ASMR audio stuff. And so without further ado, I would like to read to you my top 10 favorite poems in descending order. We'll start at number 10. We'll get to my number 1 favorite. And yeah. So this poem by William Wordsworth, for you who know my assistant and my lovely team just in general, they try to get me to kind of relax and to kind of enjoy, you know, the quiet moments of life. I really like to go and take long walks over in the park nearby where I'm at. And I think a lot of thoughts to my I think a lot of thoughts to myself when I'm out walking about. This poem generally comes to mind. I heard 1,000 blended notes while in a grove I sat reclined, in that sweet mood when a pleasant thought brings sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man? I recently stumbled across this poem. I want to say this is probably the newest poem I've kind of added to the poems I really do enjoy and that I really do like. In my life, as many of you know, I've had a very specific upbringing. It wasn't an easy one, and it was difficult. It was tumultuous, and I think that anybody who has maybe had a very difficult family life, someone who has known someone who's had a difficult family life, and just the logistical situation surrounding them has maybe been less than ideal, can really identify with the words spoken in this poem. I think this poem is a bit lesser known, but all the same, its impact has been great on me, and its impact has been profound on me. Timothy Winters comes to school with eyes as wide as a football pool, ears like bombs and teeth like splinters. A blitz of a boy is Timothy Winters. His belly is white, his neck is dark, and his hair is an exclamation mark. His clothes are enough to scare a crow, and through his breeches the blue winds blow. When teacher talks, he won't hear a word, and he shoots down dead the arithmetic bird. He licks the patterns off his plate, and he's not even heard of the welfare state. Timothy Winters has bloody feet, and he lives in a house on Suez Street. He sleeps in a sack on the kitchen floor, and they say there aren't boys like him anymore. Old man Winters likes his beer, and his missus ran off with a bombardier. Grandma sits in the grate with a gin, and Timothy's dosed with an aspirin. The welfare worker lies awake, but the law's as tricky as a 10-foot snake. So Timothy Winters drinks his cup and slowly goes on growing up. At morning prayers the master held for children less fortunate than ourselves, and the loudest response in the room is when Timothy Winters roars amen. So come one angel, come on 10. Timothy Winters says amen. Amen, 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 amen. Timothy Winters, Lord. Amen. Just to preface this poem is the longest poem, and so this next poem is one that is incredibly personal to me. Again, as many of you know, and as I previously mentioned, my upbringing was different. It was strange. I don't want to go too much into it because I feel like every time I do, you guys can cry. But I was primarily raised by my grandfather, especially through the very important years of my life. My grandfather was a huge inspiration to me. Though it certainly was not a perfect relationship. In fact, it was far from. And being able to navigate that relationship with him over the course of my life has been very difficult. It hasn't been easy in the slightest, and we've just had very different views on life. And I think this poem encapsulates my relationship and my feelings between me and him. You can't just do whatever. The words stumbled out of you like a drunk leaving a bar looking for a fresh new last call. You were not a man of words, but did your best to offer advice. You offered me you can't just do whatever. And I know what you meant. You meant that whatever I choose to do, I must not be aimless. I must not simply spin this globe and go wherever I stick my finger, because 71% of the time I will end up in the ocean. And if I do end up in the ocean, I can't just do whatever. I better learn to swim. You can't just do whatever. The conversation came after you asked me about heaven, told me that you thought heaven would be specific to each person, and that each person would have their own version of it, then asked me what mine would be. And I was so scared to tell you, I don't have one. But you nodded your head, as if confirming a suspicion that school had robbed me of a belief in some stories. You said, you don't have to believe what I believe, it's enough to be good. Be good. I will. I will think about your heaven. Your heaven would be the same haircut forever. It would be a stick, a dog, and some distance. A lawn that always needs mowing, a six-pack of pills in those short bottles, and your real teeth back. Because your dentures could never master that bottle opening trick you love to do. The first time you tried it with dentures, I had nightmares for a month because I thought your mouth had fallen off. Your heaven would be Austria before the war, and Canada after you met Grandma. It would be head cheese sandwiches and blood sausages, other deli meats that would ensure you would never ever have to entertain dinner guests, and I would never be in danger of having my lunch stolen. Your heaven would be a stash of raisins, problems that you could fix with your hands. I remember you tried to fix everything with your hands. I remember the difficult days. I remember the bandages that looked like tiny blankets as if your knuckles had all gone off to bed, walls that looked like they had said something to get under your skin and were suddenly made to pay for it. I know you were an angry man. Fingertips like spent shotgun shells, bleeding smoke cocktails of gunpowder and singed plastic. You had what some people would call a temper. But you loved a good joke, even if it was on you. Something that would crack open the walls of your chest and let the wind tickle your heart just enough to let you know it was still there. You didn't always laugh, didn't always smile. You did keep a mental ledger of what you called your send flowers list. I remember thinking it was a thank you to those who got you good, but learned the truth after my grandmother added a thin layer of sand to your sandwiches because you refused to make your own for lunch. You told me about it when you picked me up from school that day. You said, Grandma just made the send flowers list. And I asked, because you love her so much? And you said, because I'm going to kill her. Of course you didn't. Your version of kill meant 2 months before winter, having a seamstress taken each of her coats a few inches. So on the first day she needed one, she fumbled with the sudden tightness. And you stood there smiling and said, honey, I love you no matter how big you get. She did not laugh and managed to staple your smile back into a straight face when she told all of your friends at work that you had to move into the spare room because you couldn't stop farting at night. You often asked me, if I had a heaven, what would it be like? And I told you that for such a small word, if, is just too big to wrap my belief around. I would not bend to the hypothetical, but wish now that I would have, even if it was just to ease your mind in the belief that I could be headed to that other place you believe in. I would tell you now how my heaven is here. It was here in the gentle warfare of your relationship with Grandma, where volleys were traded back and forth like hockey cards between children who didn't care what the stats meant. My heaven would have been someone in grade 5 finally willing to trade me their fruit roll-up for my tin of sardines. My hell was wondering why you would give me sardines for lunch. My heaven would make you laugh, because I get the feeling you didn't get to do that very much. Through my hell, through the night terrors and bloody noses, through the eyes, black, bruised back, sneak attack, knapsack, and winter coat hijacks, you did your best to seal the cracks in my armor and made my heaven here. I would have loved to have made you laugh more, to have made your send flowers list just once. So I offer you now my if there is a heaven. Mine would have a post office, and I could send letters to yours. The first letter would read, hell is not so bad. They pretty much let you do whatever. Whoa, okay, now that I've composed myself a bit, sorry if my eyes are still a little watery. A lot of you know that I'm very busy and that I have a lot of stuff to do just on my daily list of just stuff. And there's a lot of things that I wish that I could maybe just sit and just take it all in, just take a few more moments to just breathe. There's a lot of moments where I know what I have to do. I know where I'm going and I know the journey to get there. And I move forward in my life with a significant amount of drive and a significant amount of ambition. And there are many moments I wish I could just stop and take a breather. Just take a moment. And this poem, very well-known poem, it's a great example of that. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, it's the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. This is the shortest list on the poem, or the shortest poem on the list. Oh my god, I remember when I first read it, and it has, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that I am very uniquely myself. I've never driven away from being myself. I'm really surprised that in a lot of my life, I didn't get more pushback, or maybe it was just because I'm just very bold, I'm very outspoken and very confrontational, that many people didn't ever try to have me just kind of change the very unorthodox way that I am. I'm very eccentric, I'm very different, comparably to a lot of people. It's something I want to often say to a lot of people who are often criticized when maybe they shouldn't be. People are told to act this way, act that way because of social convention. And I really wish that more people would, if there is no objective harm, there's no problem. I mean, I wish people to be able to express themselves fully in whatever way they choose to do. I wish people could express themselves more freely and be able to vocalize or maybe look or be or act more of how they would like, because I feel like all too often we leave that part of ourselves behind as we go throughout life. She had blue skin, and so did he. He kept it hidden, so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. I have no doubt that this poem is the most well-known poem on this list. It has been talked about repeatedly. I've heard people break it down many and many a time. An ode to legacy and to greatness and the what we leave behind after this life and the things that are yet to come and the centuries and centuries that will pass and the way that things will be when we are not here anymore. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty, in despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. This poet is slowly becoming, I think, one of my more favorites. I think in general, the quality of all of his poems, I think pretty consistently follow a very similar idea, though I really had some trouble deciding between a few of them. I actually selected two from this poet. Generally, Edgar A. Guest, massively motivational. Cant is the worst word that is written or spoken, doing more harm here than slander and lies. On it is many a strong spirit broken, and with it many a good purpose dies. It springs from the lips of the thoughtless each morning and robs us of courage we need through the day. It rings in our ears like a timely sent warning and laughs when we falter and fall by the way. Cant is the father of feeble endeavor, the parent of terror and half-hearted work. It weakens the efforts of artisans clever and makes of the toiler an indolent shirk. It poisons the soul of a man with a vision. It stifles in infancy many a plan. It greets honest toiling with open derision, and mocks at the hopes and the dreams of a man. Cant is a word none should speak without blushing. To utter it should be a symbol of shame. Ambition and courage it daily is crushing. It blights a man's purpose and shortens his aim. Despise it with all of your hatred of error. Refuse it the lodgment it seeks in your brain. Arm against it as a creature of terror, and all that you dream of you someday shall gain. Cant is the word that is foe to ambition, an enemy ambush to shatter your will. Its prey is forever the man with a mission, and bows but to courage and patience and skill. Hate it with a hatred that is deep and undying, for once it is welcome 'twill break any man. Whatever the goal you are seeking, keep trying, and answer this demon by saying, I can. This poem specifically, the reason I love this poem more than the other and more than most of the poems on this list, it makes it in the top 3, is because of the way it rolls off the tongue. I remember when I first heard it, I loved the way it sounded, loved the way it rolled, and oh my God, line after line after line. Oh my God, the motivation. There, in terms of motivation, the number one pick that I have for my favorite poem of all time takes the cake. But this one, second best, I'll say, in terms of motivation. Whew. Courage isn't a brilliant dash, a daring deed in a moment's flash. It isn't an instantaneous thing born of despair with a sudden spring. It isn't a creature of flickered hope or the final tug at a slipping rope, but it's something deep in the soul of man that is working always to serve some plan. Courage isn't the last resort in a work of life or the game of sport. It isn't a thing that a man can call at some future time when he is apt to fall. If he hasn't it now, he will have it not, when the strain is great and the pace is hot. For who would strive for a distant goal must always have courage within his soul. Courage isn't a dazzling light that flashes and passes away from sight. It's a slow, unwavering, ingrained trait with the patience to work and the strength to wait. It's a part of a man with his skies blue. It's part of him when he has work to do. The brave man never is freed of it. He has it when there is no need of it. Courage was never designed for show. It isn't a thing that can come and go. It's written in victory and in defeat, and every trial a man may meet. It's part of his hours, his days, his years, back of his smiles and behind his tears. Courage is more than a daring deed. It is the breath of life and a strong man's creed. It is a breathtaking poem, and I have often gone back and forth, but I think it falls firmly at the second place. Not because the poem is bad, I simply am able to attribute and what the meaning of the poem of First Place I think means to me just so much more greatly than that of this poem. This poem, though, I mean, make no mistake, it's second place, so I mean, it is a phenomenal measure of what it means from childhood to adulthood and what I have only hoped and aspired and wished to become ever since I was young, ever since I was about the age of 13 or 14, and everything that has come since in the measure of who I wanted to be. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or be lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that is in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. All right, everybody. Lastly, Invictus by William Ernest Henley. This poem I heard a very long time ago when I was very young, and it has helped me many days. I have repeated this to myself. I have memorized it. I wish the #1 spot to be the poem that evokes the greatest feeling for me. I have this poem memorized, and I know it by heart, and so I'm going to read it to you directly, looking straight into the camera. My absolute favorite poem, Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the foul clutch of circumstance I have not winced, nor have I cried aloud, but under the bludgeonings of chance my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, or how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Thank you everybody who decided to join us for this lovely video, my first major video on YouTube. And I hope you guys really enjoyed me being able to read some poems to you. I know it's been a long time coming. And I just love poetry. I love art in all of its forms, especially poetry, because I do believe, I love words, I love spoken poems. I love the power that they hold and the ability. I love poems because it's someone meticulously going over and over, making just a small, concise idea flow, and being able to reflect a feeling, a thought, anything that art could encompass in the spoken word in a very short and concise manner. It is, oh, it just speaks to my heart. And I love it in all of its glory, in all of its facets, in every little thing that makes it art. I love nothing more than it. It makes me feel very connected to the world around me. It makes me feel very connected to other human beings, and it makes me feel a kinship with everyone around me. I love poetry. It is one of my favorite things in all the world. And I hope nothing more than if you enjoy poems, then great. I wish you find even better ones that resonate with you and ones that make you feel alive and better and give you fervor and give you life and give you zeal. And if you don't generally enjoy poetry or just generally haven't had the time and haven't taken the moments to kind of go and explore that, there is a world out there of lovely poems for you to read and for you to be able to empathize, sympathize, and just be able to engross yourself in and be able to explore all these different angles of life. And so, thank you for joining me. I love you all. And as always, I hope you have a lovely, lovely time. Feel free to listen to this if you really need if you really need to just fall asleep to the sound of my voice. And so, take care. Until next time.